Look, I'm a girl. Hooray.
Why do you watch short-form content? Is it to keep up with recent trends, get a dose of a recent news segment, or is the real reason to actively seek out and watch gore? Because some TikTok trends have recently been making the rounds and soft launching some very disturbing content. Some trends feature what look like gore created with AI, others featuring a childhood character in a monstrous manner, and one containing a very popular and recent conspiracy theory told in the credits of very well-known movies and TV shows. But before we get into that, hello everybody, my name is Noah, and today we're going to be going over some pretty disturbing recent trends found on TikTok and other platforms alike. So if that's your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, TikTok and other platforms alike are no stranger to horror, but when that horror dances around the lines of actual gore and features real-life injuries with so many filters, you aren't sure if what you watch was real or not. There's a bunch of subgenres of Folk Valley that aren't intrinsically scary or bizarre, but just about 3 weeks into this brain-rotted trend, it turned into blatant gore. Some accounts took it upon themselves to soft launch very gory content through the means of AI, or just simply hiding it behind so many filters that it makes gore seem less, well, gory. Almost like that minion trend back when AI was still pretty new to the public, and would show blatant gore with its original audio still attached. Unlike that minion trend, audio in Folk Valley, if there is any, gets drowned out by obnoxious combinations of car sirens, birds chirping, screaming, and whatever have you. Every time I get a video with a car siren, it tends to be more, how do I put it, graphic. A lot more bad happens with that sound versus the birds chirping. Whether it be a video of someone breaking their bones, sustaining a major head injury, or even getting killed, that car siren is usually there to accompany them. However, with the birds, I typically find that it's more of like the tough valley or other subgenres of Folk Valley that aren't actually, a problem, but the car siren does seem to go with all the gory and bad content. Uncle Ekber, a man on TikTok otherwise known as John Folk. Uncle Ekber is always seen with a deep stare, always seeming like he's dead inside. Videos with this man always start out tame, with no filters until they start cutting the food. Either some chaotic things happen in the background, or Uncle Ekber himself gets cut in half in a snappy motion and devoured by his peers around him. The use of AI is obvious here. The man turns into cake as he's being cut in half. And as an extension to this side of Folk Valley, some accounts added AI to random videos, like this one of a dog's birthday. People around him are singing happy birthday. And then, out of nowhere, the dog eats the woman who's holding the cake as she's turned into spaghetti. At first, this freaked me out until again I realized it's obviously AI. It looks very realistic even for an AI prompt, although it's AI that doesn't make it right in any regard. Using prompts to turn people into food to simulate gore-like content is disturbing, especially since there's a lot of kids on this app who are susceptible to seeing this kind of content. But when this trend isn't trying to use AI to create some shock gore, it just shows actual injuries or deaths. The injuries largely seem to be videos of people trying to pull off a skate trick and then accidentally breaking a bone or sustaining a major head injury. These kinds of videos don't even try to hide anything with AI, just throwing an inverted filter on with overstimulating sounds. Some of these videos had a lot of blood, and honestly it's just kind of weird that it's allowed on the TikTok platform so long as it's under a filter. When it came to actual deaths, various videos of people falling from significant heights, industrial workplace accidents, or even some people getting run over by some form of vehicle. And if you want my honest opinion, I feel like it's kind of weird that people are so obsessed with this kind of content. It seems like TikTok and other platforms alike seem to have this issue with people posting gore as trends, and it seems to blow any trend out of the water in popularity. So why does this happen? What started off as a goofy and surreal trend turned into something very gory very quick by just a few bad actors, and they turned it into something it didn't originally start off as. Call it a morbid curiosity or whatever you want, but the fact is that this trend makes kids susceptible to seeing gore at a very young age. And as somebody who's had unrestricted internet access from a very young age, that's done irreversible damage, it's not a good thing. So if you see these kinds of videos, please report them. This next trend actually blended in with folk value very well and turned into its own thing, turning something nostalgic into something very creepy, or at least for me, turning something very creepy when I was a kid into something downright horrific. There's no doubt that the 2003 Cat in the Hat live action was, well, unnerving. With the peculiar depiction of Cat in the Hat by Mike Myers and the weirdly obvious adult jokes, it was fair to say that this movie didn't do well in the box office. Not only would this film get back into the modern day psyche, but would also have a much darker twist than it originally was intended to have. A popular variant of this trend was in a simple meme format, showing a clip of the movie with some interesting text on screen. Some with the combination of tragic, sad, or even horrific sentences posted as relatable content. When the internet wants to be absurd, it usually is. But in this case of the Cat in the Hat text prompts, some of these are actually pretty concerning. With the sheer amount of detail some of these videos possess, feels like I'm listening to someone's deepest, darkest secret motive, when I'm not really supposed to. These strange videos are more outlandish than they are scary, and most likely are nothing more than that. The lack of music, faded sound effects, and the discoloration of a fictional world that some of us have grown up to know. The already surreal look of this movie makes it the perfect target for nostalgic horror, painting the Cat in the Hat as a powerful entity capable of many atrocities around this fictional town, putting children and adults through sadistic situations all for the pleasure of the cat. And it makes sense why, because the actual movie did that as well. This movie legit felt like an actual horror movie masked as something made for children. That's why it's a part of today's conversation. A children's film twisted up into some horrors beyond what we can even comprehend, just for that same feeling to have the same impact the real movie did. At least, it did for me. And I believe that's why these horror edits work so well. The outlandishness of Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat makes these horror edits actually feel real. The Cat in the Hat in real life is downright terrifying. I also wanted to mention that this movie was so bad that Dr. Seuss's widow, Audrey Gassel, was so offended, so appalled by the adult humor and the portrayal of her husband's work, that she vowed to never make another live action of Dr. Seuss's work. So we can thank the Cat in the Hat for that. And just a side note before we go to this next topic, I do not believe in this conspiracy theory because it is ongoing, and this is for educational purposes only, and I do not believe in it. With that out of the way, I hope you enjoy. Mitch McConnell, an 84-year-old Republican senator of the state of Kentucky, would sustain a major fall on June 14, 2026, and would be rushed to the George Washington University Hospital in Washington, D.C. At the time of this recording, it's been 44 days since he's been admitted to the hospital, which begs the question, is he still alive? Although there's been 2 photos and a statement released for proof of life, nobody has actually seen or spoken to him since the accident. And those 2 photos have been under heavy speculation online for supposed use of AI. He was last publicly seen on June 11th in Capitol Hill casting a Senate vote. You'd think someone in the position he's in with the power he holds would have at least an interview, or even seen by another colleague. So that poses another question. Is the government trying to hide the death of Mitch McConnell from us? Well, that seems to be the narrative some creators on TikTok have been expressing, and by some rather dystopian feeling methods. No matter what time you've grown up in, you're probably used to cartoons, sitcoms, or even documentaries having credits signaling the end of a program. Cartoons, it's usually cheerful music with vibrant visuals. For sitcoms, usually having some sort of text pop up on screen right as the last scene is taking place. In documentaries, more often than not, are just a blank screen with some text. But why is this even important to the death of a US senator? Imagine being a kid waking up to the end credits of SpongeBob. It's late at night and nothing illuminates the room other than the TV. And as you gaze into the end of your show, you see this sudden message. The end credits a lot of us have known being accompanied by a conspiracy of an alleged dead senator the US government is trying to hide to prevent a special election so they don't lose power is very unsettling. I mean, the end credits of SpongeBob was already something unsettling, but this takes it to a whole new level. But remember when I mentioned other forms of entertainment? What makes these intro-outro videos so bizarre is how surprisingly well they are made, and how nonchalantly they present this information. Intros and outros of TV shows that were made at least in my childhood or have happened way before my time talking about recent events almost feels like an alternate dimension. Take this outro from Adventure Time for example. Here's a side-by-side of both edited and unedited outros. It's honestly hard to not admire how well these were made, only to talk about a conspiracy theory. That's not true, because it's a conspiracy. And there's other videos about Mitch McConnell that spread this awareness in other facets, but aren't as prevalent as these intro-outro videos. Like a normal Family Guy video that randomly switches to an AI voice of Peter to give this practically same message as these intro-outro videos give. But I had actually already covered a similar trend using that exact format that you should all go watch after this video. But anyways, with growing suspicions of Mitch McConnell's death mixed with the lack of information to the American public, this kind of gives you a feeling that's pretty hard to describe. Almost like you don't know who to believe. Are you being lied to, or are you being told the truth? Is there really any truth to begin with? But it seems clear that TikTok and other platforms alike have this weird pattern of trends that are disturbing and surreal. But maybe the goals of these trends are way different. One trend tries to shine light on some malicious government activity. The other one turns a nostalgia kids movie into something horrific but very beautiful in an art sense. And another one is trying to turn the internet back into that Wild West form of internet with gore all over the place. But whatever those goals may seem to be, they always seem to repeat themselves over and over and over again. But that is all I have for you folks today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. And again, I want to thank all the new subscribers. We have more than doubled since the last video I posted, so that is insane. So thank you guys so much. And if there's anything you want to see me cover in the future, please let me know in the comment section below. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.